Military Academy at West Point, holding a Bachelor of Science degree in Systems Engineering. After being honorably discharged from the Army, and in addition to continuing his service to our nation as a leader in the Liberty Movement since 2004, Jason has held positions as a senior consultant for a Big Four consulting firm, founder and president of a custom software development firm, and analyst for a global medical device company. During his time leading the Patriot Coalition and Fire Coalition, Jason has been interviewed in numerous national and local news programs in television, radio, and print, to include Neil Cavuto and John Kasich on Fox News, ABC World News Tonight, MSNBC, Lou Dobbs, KFI, Los Angeles, KOGO, San Diego, and more. Jason currently lives with his wife and two youngest sons, who still live in their home in Little.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate the invitation to speak to you guys. You know, I've seen the Sheriff speak several times now, and I am always just completely blown away at the information that he presents to us, and it's a true honor to be sharing the same time as him, so I appreciate his service. So, the issue of illegal immigration is really where what got me off the couch 15 years ago. So after my service in the Army was complete and I came back home, I thought I was basically retired from public service, right? So I fooled myself into thinking that. And then over the next few years, I started paying attention and doing a little bit of research into some of the areas, the aspects of our life that are negatively impacted by illegal immigration. And I started getting kind of this nagging feeling, kind of just a little tickle, if you will. And probably just about everybody in this room, by the nature of why we're here, probably has felt that tickle. And that is when we see an injustice, something that is not right, we can't really just set it aside. We have to try to set things right. We have to try to seek justice and try to make things right again. And that was me back in 2004. And so my way of dealing with that was I kind of picked my head up, started listening to a little bit more talk radio, got in touch and met with some great people, just like people sitting here in this room, and tried to figure out what exactly can we do about this as just regular everyday civilians. And so from that, you know, what is now today called the Patriot Coalition, that's when it was born. And in the early days, we dedicated ourselves to fighting against the illegal alien invasion. We saw it for what it was, and we recognized how pervasive the issues were becoming. And you know, that took us from setting up just regular everyday projects that citizens like this could participate in that didn't depend on our federal government to intervene. You know, we obviously asked for help, right? We wanted, just like we do today, we petition our government for redress of grievances, right? We talk to our elected officials. So it started with projects like that, and included even into 2007. How many of you remember the great amnesty fight of 2007? Yeah. So our coalition descended upon Washington that year, and in my opinion, we had boots on the ground, and we were going through the halls of Congress, meeting with the key legislators that were involved in that battle. And so that one we won, but it's never going away, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. They're always going to be trying to push, and I say they, the liberal progressives, right? They're always going to try to enable this illegal alien invasion. So, I mean, what are these pervasive issues? I mean, all of us have probably lived with them. We probably know them very well. Healthcare? Does illegal immigration affect healthcare? Yeah, absolutely. right? Thanks to some federal laws, namely EMTALA, if an illegal alien presents himself at a hospital and he is not stable, that illegal alien must be treated regardless of whether he has insurance. And so what that means is who gets to pay for it, right? So, and you'll sense a theme here, right? Every issue seems to shift the burden of cost, not to the illegal aliens, but to the rest of the taxpayer. You know, we are subsidizing that. So healthcare is one of them. Anybody been in a long emergency room wait? Anybody know anybody who has, right? So healthcare. What about taxes? Do we pay higher taxes because of the illegal alien invasion? Yeah, we do. Right? Again, shifting the burden. We're subsidizing them because a lot of our federal budget goes to things that the illegal aliens are benefiting from by virtue of the fact that they can't support themselves. How about our auto insurance? Does it affect our auto insurance? Sure does. Yeah. Anybody ever been in an accident with somebody who's been uninsured? No? So uninsured motorists, again, shifting the burden of cost. We are now, the insurance companies are expecting us to pay that, right? Traffic, no one here knows anything about traffic here, right? It's traffic, it affects traffic. What about jobs and wages? This is a big one, of course. So for it not to affect jobs, that would have to assume that there's nobody here in the United States that is in need of a job, is qualified for a job, is looking for a job. And that's just not the case. Even in a good economy, right? Anybody know any veterans who are searching for jobs right now? I do, right? And you can't tell me that the jobs that illegal aliens are taking are not the ones that somebody who served our country could probably perform. And I know several of them. So as good as the economy is, it still affects us. And the wages. I got so tired, over these last 15 years, I got so tired of hearing they're just doing the jobs that Americans want to do, right? I like to rephrase it. They're doing the jobs that Americans won't do for the artificially depressed wages that the employers are paying because they are used to paying these low wages. They're not going to go out and pay somebody the market wage when they can just hire an illegal alien and under the table, right? So the artificially low wages are pretty impactful, especially to some of the entry-level positions. Who's got teenage kids who are trying to get into the workforce? You know, and some of those, maybe the back, not back office, but the back of restaurants kind of jobs that a lot of times they're taking. So it's impacting every aspect of our life. So, and here's the big one, and this is the one that I would cause me to lose sleep at night, and that is the crime. And the sheriff talked about crime to a good degree. But to me, it's about the victims of the crime. How many here, anybody in here know a victim of illegal alien crime? Anybody? Yeah? Some of the same hands, right? To me, every single crime that is committed in the United States by an illegal alien is preventable. 100% of those. Over the course of the last 15 years, I've gotten to know some families who have been impacted, children who have been murdered by illegal aliens, and it's heartbreaking. And there are no words, especially because these things all these crimes are preventable, every single one of them. So, to me, it really is about law and order, right? We are founded in a constitutional republic, a federal compound constitutional republic. It means we're governed by laws. And these laws and adherence to the Constitution is what has made us the nation we are today. It has made us the most prosperous nation on the face of the earth. It's because we have these laws. So how is it that we expect to continue to have this prosperity? And we do, to a large degree. But we cannot continue to ignore them. So, what are the solutions? Now, I've been doing this long enough to know that there are a lot of proposed solutions out there. A lot of them. But there are 4 main things that must be done to rectify the situation. There's a lot of other ones that can be. In fact, Sheriff, you mentioned one of them. The 287G program is a fantastic opportunity. And you and I may have talked about this, but I was thinking that there was also an outside the jail portion of the 287G program. And I don't know if we can be, or that's an application process that we still can use. But the 4 main things, the 4 main solutions to this problem. The first one, first and foremost, and it has to be done, border security is the, have to have a physical barrier. And it has to be defended. It's not okay just to have a physical barrier, it has to be defended as well. I don't know if any of you have seen there's a video, and maybe I should have put it up here, but if any of you are following my Facebook page, I put up a video of a gentleman who, in a flood, he's inside of his property with a chain link fence. And he's up to his knees in water. He's got a bucket of water, and he's throwing it over the chain link fence, trying to bail his property out. And if you guys can follow my word picture here, he's doing his best, trying to get that water outside the chain link fence, but it just keeps coming back in. It would be funny if this didn't also describe the illegal alien invasion if we don't have a physical barrier to protect us. Because every deportation, every enforcement action is just putting water on the other side of that chain link fence, right? They can come right back through. So it has to be a part of the solution. This barrier, it's got to be pretty extensive, right? It has to be a physical barrier. It has to be very difficult to penetrate. It goes without saying. Now, what about the mountainous regions and so forth? Yes, we're still going to need technology. And we're still going to need personnel, to the sheriff's point. We have to have more personnel in order to enforce that border. But what a physical barrier for the non-mountainous regions does is it kind of funnels people to the areas that are very difficult to penetrate. And so what that does is it weeds out the people who are not ready to enter this country and go through the hardship of climbing over a mountain, right? Then it just it releases it changes the people who want to come here through those avenues of approach to the hardcore criminals. And we're already dealing with those enemies, right? We have to. Okay, so a physical barrier has to be a part of the solution. Employers is the next piece. Employers, we have to increase our prosecution of employers. And you know, we've seen here lately in Allen, right, we had one of the employers who was raided, and that's good news in a fairly big metroplex. We have to do more than just a big metroplex and a big employer. We have to go after mom and pops in rural areas. We have to go through mom and pops in big cities. We have to go through big employers in rural areas. They must know, the employers, they must know that nobody is beyond inspection. They have to know that no matter who they are, anybody could be coming. ICE could be coming at any given time. Because then what happens is those employers, they're the magnet that draw a lot of illegal aliens to this country. So if we turn off that magnet because the employers are too afraid to face prosecution, because they don't know who we're going to go after, it's just the big companies are going to go after them. They'll never come after me. No, we can't. We have to ensure that, again, we have the funding to have personnel to go after all employers. Then they are complicit. They are part of this problem. The third thing, how many of you know that visa overstays, jump on the gun, visa overstays are a large part of the illegal alien invasion, right? I think last I heard about 40% of the ones in this country are because they're visa overstays. We have to address that, because those are the ones who are coming here legally. They're coming on whatever kinds of visas they're coming on, and they just abscond, right? They're gone. They say, oh, I've worked here, or I've been here for whatever their visa's for, and I kind of like it here. You guys have a lot of neat stuff, and so they just don't go home. We have to fix that loophole. And now, granted that we have tried to put in, our nation has tried to put in some sort of tracking systems for these. U.S. visits, now they're actually trying to roll out a facial recognition system that's supposed to match when somebody comes into the country on a visa, match that with when they exit to make sure that he came in, he came out. She came in, she came out. And so if we know who's not leaving when they're supposed to, at least we have an idea of who's still here. So at last I checked. This is from 2017 data, fiscal year 2017, reported in 2018, I guess. 600 and, nope, let me check my notes because I wrote it down. Yeah, 600,000 visa overstayed. There were 600,000 visa overstayed in 2017, okay? 280 of them, 280,000 of them were for countries that do not get visa waivers. Anybody know what a visa waiver is? So those are countries who aren't necessarily on our best buddy list. They're ones that, we're going to check them out a little bit more before they get into this country. 280,000 of the 600,000 were from countries where we don't just let them in because they're friendly. They're from non-visa waiver countries. That's scary. Where are they? Anybody know? I don't. So we have to fix that problem. And again, it's going to take manpower, it's going to take money, but my goodness, if we're sending money to foreign countries for Lord knows what, certainly we can spend some to ensure that our citizens are safe and secure. Okay? And then lastly, and Sherry touched on this, and that is interior enforcement, sanctuary cities, right? We have to address this issue. And again, kudos to Governor Abbott for taking a hard stand on that, and I hope that there's some enforcement behind it. But it can't just be left, I mean, one state's great, but what if they just bypass Texas? And on their way, you know, who knows what's going to happen? Let they go to Oklahoma or Massachusetts or whatever. There were, and I didn't mention this, but up through April, the most recent numbers I could find, 460,000 illegal aliens were apprehended at the border this year. And the current metric is that, I was having a conversation earlier, I don't know that I believe this, but currently they think that they're apprehending about 50% of them. So if they're apprehending 460,000 this year so far, that means at best there's 460,000 already this year that have come in. So if you're filling an NFL stadium every month with illegal aliens, who's in that group? Do we know? We don't know. This whole concept of sanctuary cities, and I don't actually memorize the federal statutes, so I brought a little nugget for you guys. So this is what we already have as a law on the books, and it's completely applicable, in my humble opinion, to the sanctuary city, I'll call it a phenomenon. This is Title 8 United States Code, Section 1324. And I'm only going to read part of it that I think is pretty interesting. Any person, these are criminal penalties, any person who, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law, conceals, harbors, shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, shield from detection. Does that sound familiar? Such alien in any place, including any building or any means, or they engage in any conspiracy to commit any of the preceding acts. So to me, it seems like it's a conspiracy. If you are setting up what they lovingly refer to as a sanctuary city, that's a conspiracy, or they aid or abet in the commission of that. In that case, they are subject to penalties of up to 5 years in prison. Unless, of course, as in the case of many of the victims of illegal alien crime, that alien commits a crime, assaults somebody, or kills somebody, in which case they can get up to life in prison. So if we were to start actually enforcing the laws that we already have in the books, and we hear it all the time in this fight, if we would just enforce those laws, that would be something else entirely. But we already have the tools to do it. Maybe some more money, maybe some more manpower. But these are the things that we have to do. I referred to it before, and I'll kind of close with this. Again, we are the most prosperous nation on the face of the earth because our Constitution was written solely to defend our liberties, right? The liberty that we have allows this to happen. If we continue to allow it to erode, and I carry it around with me as often as I can, in our Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, deals with our government guaranteeing to each of us not only a Republican form of government, but protection from invasion. And as much as the media and the rest of our progressive, liberal countrymen like to say, well, it's not an invasion. If you have enough illegal aliens coming in to fill a football stadium, an NFL football stadium every week, and if an invasion is the intent to come to some other country in order to benefit from their resources and to take their land in order to benefit yourself with their resources, and if we have that many illegal aliens coming here for that purpose, if that's not an invasion, gang, I don't know what is. That is a slow motion, semi-organized, mostly non-violent invasion. So if that doesn't qualify under Article 4, Section 4, I don't know what does. So I'll end with this. My encouragement to each of you. Obviously, you guys, you're the tip of the spear. You're here tonight, right? And having this information is valuable. You know, tools and sound bites, if you will, in order to go fight the good fight. We have to take it out there too. I want to encourage everybody that's in this room. If you are not talking to your neighbors, and I know many of you are. Many of you are. We had a Congo line of precinct chairs up here, and thank you very much for all of your service. In addition to the work that they're doing, I'm hoping that each of us can go out there and talk to our neighbors. Even just have social outing, right? If we have, if we're talking to our neighbors or even people we don't know, we're not going to have any credibility with them unless we have a relationship first. So it doesn't have to start with politics, but we have to get out there and we have to encourage the rest of us to get involved in the political process. I'm not going to get too much into that because I think we know we have work ahead of us. And we've got a big fight in 2020 that we've got to come and show up for. I think I heard last night that we're going to need at least 1 million more Republican voters. I'm seeing some nodding heads from smart people in order to be victorious. But we have to, this group in here and every group around it like it, we have to get out there and do the hard work. So that's all I have for you tonight. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's been something you can take away and use. And I will take any questions too. And I'm sure the sheriff, since he's still here, if you remember one, he'll probably answer as well. Yes, ma'am.
So there's been a lot of talk on the 2020 census to report immigration or legal status. I mean, the Democrats, I'm sure, are thinking the best case would be, okay, so they put that in there. What good is that if it's a self-reported and it's not enforced by any way? They just say, yeah, I'm here legally. Or can you give some thoughts on that and where that's heading? And that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. So my mind, I'm a solutions guy. I like to try to figure out solutions. And I'm trying to visualize how you enforce somebody telling the truth there, right? And I don't have an easy answer for that. Is it important to know? Yes. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because it reminded me of something else. One of the pieces of legislation that the Patriot Coalition for 4 or 5 sessions of Congress now has introduced, the friendly name is the Illegal Alien Crime Reporting Act. And the whole purpose of this act, it's a piece of legislation, it's very short, 1 page, is to add 2 things to the Uniform Crime Reporting process, which every jurisdiction, I think it's over 100,000 or more, has to report their crimes to the FBI, the Department of Justice. in order to capture and aggregate, who's committing crimes, right? And what crimes they are. So our act would add citizenship and nationality to that reporting. Because so far, we have no idea. All we can say is we know that people are getting killed, raped, assaulted by illegal aliens. We have no idea what the magnitude of that problem is, only anecdotally through the media, right? This act would make sure that those two pieces of information were reported up, so now we can start to quantify it. Can you imagine the uproar and the furor once we find out actually how many crimes are being committed by illegal aliens? Just those one small bill, one small piece of legislation can have a huge impact. I didn't share this with you, and this information is dated a little bit, but back in about 2005 to 2010, and again, we had to extrapolate the information because there's no statistics, but based on who is in prisons and the kinds of crimes they're committing, about 25 Americans, I should say residents, every day were being killed by illegal aliens, every single day. 13 of them by manslaughter, maybe drunk drivers, and 12 of them by first and second degree murder. 25 a day, it's 9,000 in a year. How many people died in 9/11? 3,000, right? Over 3,000. So, I didn't quite answer your question, because it's on the census. I don't know how we enforce that. But if we can bring to bear some of these very simple ideas in order to make sure that we can quantify the problem, I think that'll go a long way. Any other questions? Sir?
I think the biggest one that just thought was neat to know, and I don't know, the gentleman that's running against voted with the Democrats to lower the voting age to 16 years of age. What is your view on such a just a strange thought process?
Yeah.
That was a big deal to him. He was proud of himself.
Right. So the question was about the recent vote from our congressman to allow 16-year-olds to vote. So a little off topic, and you get the prize for the first political question, not necessarily immigration. But a quick answer is that is not the right answer. I couldn't stomach 16-year-olds voting. It's scary enough. I've got now two teenage boys, and what was everybody here thinking about when they were 16? And I'll leave it at that. So I'll leave it at that. Any other questions? Immigration? Yes, ma'am. So, you're right. I didn't mention education, but again, it falls in that category of, just from a cost standpoint, shifting the cost to the taxpayers because, we still have to pay for those schools, and we have to build more of them, right? Because we're also educating illegal aliens. In terms of your point of what they're teaching, I agree. I don't know. I don't think anybody out there, at least on our side of the right side of the Constitution, believes that they're teaching anything that's worthwhile for these students. I should say anything. There's a lot of stuff that they are teaching that is anti-American, just plain wrong constitutionally and based on our founding. It is extremely frustrating, but it is a big part of the illegal alien invasion as well. It's impacted. Yes, sir. I know what ICE will say. I would guess what ICE would say is what probable cause do I have? Years ago I wrote an article, back when Anderson Cooper was on, I think, Anderson Cooper 360, I saw something on. And anyways, in response to this, it talked about the ticket agent that sold the ticket to Muhammad Atta on 9/11. When Muhammad Atta approached the counter, he said, if this isn't a terrorist, to himself, he said, if this isn't a terrorist, I don't know who is. So, my question was, rewind the tape. In hindsight, do you not sell that ticket to Muhammad Atta? Of course, the rational among us would say yes. But those on the other side of the Constitution would say, well, that's racial profiling. So, in my mind, I think that there is something called common sense profiling. And, I'm probably delving into a little bit of the sheriff's territory here, but, he talked about his guys having gut instinct and experience that is guiding their decisions on how they're making these evaluations. And in my mind, common sense profiling would tell me, if I know historically that, people, we've arrested people who are working illegally, because maybe after their shift somewhere they went off and they bought a six-pack of beer and then they drank too much and hit somebody. They were just at a work site, right? And then they went to a job site. If this happens over and over, and I know where they congregate, just like if I know that there's a scantily clad woman in a dimly lit area that is approaching cars, a vice officer is probably going to maybe make a reasonable suspicion that this person is probably a prostitute, right? Why can't we make common sense profiling decisions about things like that? If we know this is happening in a certain area, I think that we should, right? That's just my 2 cents. Any other questions? Okay, well, I really appreciate the time, and thanks for having me again. So I look forward to it. I haven't met you. I hope to meet you